Welcome everybody to How to Double Your Billing with Half the Effort. Now, one of the reasons I'm offering this to your companies, your stations, and through your state broadcast associations for free is because I do want to get the word out about my new book. So this is a very quick commercial. You all sell commercials, so I know you won't begrudge me a 60. And then we'll get right to the meat of the session. 23 Shockingly Simple Sales Ideas, a book you can read in about an hour. And apply the lessons immediately. I don't want you to take my word for it. I'd love you to go to Amazon right after the webinars ended and read some of the, I was going to say 17, but as of a minute ago, there were 18 five-star reviews. And then, decide if it's worth investing a few bucks in yourself to get the book. It's been amazing to me how fast this book is sold and how popular it's becoming. I looked on Amazon this morning, and it's number 36 in the Kindle edition, in sales and sales management. So a lot of sales managers are buying the book in bulk and giving it to their teams, and it's only got 70 pages, so you can get through it in an hour, literally. And you may be able to see that pricing. The Kindle is $4.97, and right now the paperback is $6.97. It was $7.97 a week ago. And a state association executive called me and said, "Can I get a deal?" And I said, "Well, I could probably knock $1 off." The trouble is, this is on Amazon on demand, and you can only buy it from Amazon. I don't have a box of them here. So I had to change the price on Amazon so he could get it. It takes 3 to 5 days to get the price up and down. So you've got 3 to 5 business days as of right now to get it at $6.97, whether you buy one copy or 150 copies. So take a look, and you can take a look inside, read the first chapter, read the introduction, and just read the reviews and see what you think. All right. 2 buttons, and you see this on the little button on your handout to the right. 2 buttons that managers push. And I'm guessing that your sales goal for 2018 is going to be more than it was in 2017, whether it's the Wall Street people, the owner, board members. They all have one word they like to use a lot with us salespeople, and that's more. We got to sell more. We got to make more sales. We got to make more money. And sales managers, I know you're on the call, and I know you're under the gun to get salespeople to sell more. And so when the board says more, we start telling the salespeople, you got to make more calls, you got to make more proposals, you got more activity. And there's really nothing wrong with more. I mean, you do need more activity, and most of us aren't. We think we're working hard, but we could probably work harder and smarter. But when we fail to move the needle with the, do more, then we hit the panic button. Sarah, come into my office. Didn't we talk about doing more? Why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you selling more? So more is more in the panic button. The more button, the panic button. Those are the 2 buttons we tend to push in management and ownership. And I've heard people say work smarter, not harder. But what does that mean? You got to work smart, not hard. Well, I thought I was doing both. Well, it's hard to describe what that means if you're not real clear and just say it. It's a nice business cliche, but it doesn't help people improve their sales. So I think the most important button is the how button. And whether you have an incremental goal or you really do want to double your billing, I want to show you how to double your billing, how exactly to do it. And then if you see how you can double your billing, making another 10, 15, 20% is going to seem easy. Welcome, Odessa, Texas. If you have no audio, you have to call in or push a button on the control panel and try to get the audio working. I don't see anybody else with that problem, but welcome to all of you. And I'm sorry if you're having trouble with the audio. All right, so let's try to go through the purpose, process, and payoff. I've got a little section of that on your handout. No need to take all these notes, but I think every meeting needs a purpose, process, payoff, whether it's a meeting that you're having with a prospect or advertiser, or a webinar or a seminar. And I always like to let people know what the purpose, process, payoff is, because if you can articulate that at the beginning of the meeting, as a salesperson, you're going to have a more receptive audience. And as a webinar guy, you're going to have a more receptive audience because you know what's going to happen and what you're going to get, what the purpose is of the session, how we're going to work together, and then the payoff. So I want you to look at your monthly billing differently. That's one of the purposes of this. I want you to understand that there are 7 components of your monthly billing, and I want you to be able to isolate them with the worksheets that you have. And then I want to show you exactly how to double your billing with less effort. So that's the purpose of this. And the process will be that you get the handouts and the worksheets. I'm going to do a poll or two. I'm going to give you some specific examples, stories, tools, and then Q&A and comments after the session. So absolutely love to have you comment. And I am always open to, positive feedback and constructive criticism. So if there's anything you want to talk about or email about after this session, chris.lytle@instantSalesTraining.com. I Google pretty well. There is a kickboxer, MMA guy, Chris Lytle. So if you Google Chris Lytle, you might get the MMA guy first. But if you Google Chris Lytle sales, you'll get right to all my websites and my online presence. So the big payoff is you're going to ask for and get larger orders as a result of this session. You're going to gain immediately applicable sales ideas and strategies, and you're going to know exactly what working smarter, not harder really means. So I want to do a quick poll. I'll launch it now, and let's just see, and then I'll reveal the answers. We're not going to name names. This is confidential. Nobody's going to be recognized, but the poll is open, and it's how much more you budgeted to sell this year versus 2017. So there you see it. We got 27% of the stations is a 5% increase. 36% need a 10%, 15% want 15% more, 12%, 20% more, and 9 of you are going for 25% or more. So let's see, did I get rid of that? All right, so here's the first thing we mean by selling smarter, not harder. And focus on clean selling. This is a term that I hadn't even heard of after 35 years in the business of sales training until December. Focus on clean selling. And clean selling means selling as service. When you're super clear about helping your client determine what's best for them, whether or not that means working with you at all, everything goes better, everything. These people will never forget, your prospects and customers will never forget that oh so rare feeling of being cared for, heard, and respected. Their gratitude will come back to you tenfold, and your business will benefit in ways you can't imagine. Wendy Pitts Reeves is a member of the Forbes Coaching Council. I read this online in an article about 10 best sales ideas. I sometimes use Google 10 great ideas or 10 best pieces of advice I've ever been given, and found this term, clean selling. And it's really an interesting term. And maybe if you haven't heard of it, think about how you're helping your customer, not helping yourself. It's very powerful. Neil Rackham wrote Spin Selling, one of the genius researchers in sales. Sales success is constructed from those little building blocks called behaviors. And Garfield Ogilvy, there he is pictured, wrote the foreword to my new book, and he motivated me to put on this session about doubling your billing with half the effort. And what I'm going to do, I recorded the foreword to the book because it describes a struggling advertising. In this case, he was radio, as a Canadian radio rep. It describes a struggling salesperson who's ready to quit, but he decides to come to a seminar and get some training. And when he goes back, he's transformed himself. So I'm going to play this. It takes about a minute. My college professors pointed me toward a career in sales. They thought my gift of gab, ability to think on my feet, and boundless enthusiasm would propel me to success. Alas, my innate skills were not enough. Shortly into my first job, I was second-guessing my career choice. It was 1982 and I was selling advertising for the Oz FM network in St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. Still, I persisted. I moved to Ottawa and CJSB Radio, an upstart AM station in Canada's capital. There I became a top-ranked salesperson at a bottom-rated radio station. Things weren't much better. My annual income bordered on what I could make at a minimum wage job. And then my first child, Mitchell, was born in 1983. I really needed to earn more money. But I muddled along for a couple of more years, frustrated and disappointed with my lack of success, until I stumbled across an ad in a trade magazine. It was for a seminar called How to Overcome the 5 Toughest Challenges of Radio Sales. The seminar leader was Chris Lytle. I'd never heard of him. Chris was holding the seminar in Buffalo, New York, a 5-hour road trip from Ottawa. I took a chance and signed up for the training. I ponied up the $139, US dollars no less, for the seminar fee. I hopped into my 80 Mercury Monarch, drove across Ontario and over the Peace Bridge into Buffalo, and I met Chris Lytle for the first time. As I listened to his message that day, the fog lifted. I gained a new clarity about my sales job. Chris told us that we should focus on helping our clients sell more rather than focus on selling them more. I learned that if I could help my clients succeed, then my success would follow. That was a fundamental game changer for me. Before the seminar, my focus was on how much commission I could make. Afterwards, my focus was on how much I could contribute to the business I was calling on. That intervention, 5 years into my sales career, saved it. Sales was too hard when I saw myself as having to pickpocket my clients to earn a commission. It got easier when I started trying to improve their businesses. I did more homework. I shared my knowledge of marketing and advertising. I focused on their results. I practiced what Chris preached, and for the first time I felt fulfilled and successful. My income doubled, and soon I was being recruited as a sales manager to show aspiring salespeople how I was succeeding. A stint as an executive in a national trade association followed, and I went on to lead sales teams in the outdoor advertising space, and rose to the national VP of sales for Clear Channel Airports based in Chicago. But I still remember shuffling down to Buffalo 32 years ago to hear Chris Lytle. It was a smart move. So I always love to hear that myself, but you do this because you want to help people. I was the accidental salesperson myself, and I didn't really figure it out till I got some training, and I love to pass those lessons along. So I want to thank Garfield for his wonderful forward. All right, so let's move on to the number one rule of selling. It's follow along in your notes. You can see this there. But I really started thinking about this. First of all, I think Garfield's story really illustrates clean selling, although we weren't calling it that 30 years ago. I mentioned clean selling earlier. When you're focused on the customer, not yourself. He mentioned the pickpocketing thing versus the really making a contribution to them, and I think that's powerful. I came across this number one rule of selling while I was researching one of my instant sales training knowledge bites a couple of weeks ago. And I remember when I was a young, cocky advertising sales rep, there was a guy that was giving me the hardest time. We were having a meeting and he just kept hammering me. So your rates are too high. I don't like your station. And it just all this. I said, you ought to get me to like you. He said, why should I do that? I said, because I'm in advertising. I'm great coming up with ideas. And in advertising, we do our best work for people we like. Get me to like you. And it sort of took him aback. But I said things like that because I wanted to say things that other salespeople weren't saying. And I believe that. But then Robert Cialdini, there he is. He wrote the book Persuasion. He wrote the book Influence. He's an academic that studies why people make sales and how things get marketed. And his thing is, for me, the first rule of sales will be to come to like your customer, to show the person that you care about him or her. That allows this person to trust you and feel comfortable moving in directions you're recommending, because we all know we protect the people we like. So if we've come to like our customer and they see it, they're going to feel more comfortable with us and they'll be right. Because if we truly like them, we will be sure we protect their interests. So anytime you see someone that I'm quoting, You can probably go to YouTube and find a video of theirs. That's where I found this quote from Robert Cialdini. Typically, when I get up in the morning on Monday, I start looking at sales books and ideas. And if somebody quotes somebody else, then I look for their YouTube video and I try to find an idea that I can present to my audience that helps them understand selling a little bit better. And my unique ability is take a complicated subject and then make it simple to understand and make it actionable. So, you got to learn to like your customer, or you got to, and if the customer senses you like them, that's a good thing. So you probably see this picture over at the side of your handouts. So it means we're on page 2. And this is Archimedes. Archimedes was a Greek mathematician, physicist, engineer, and astronomer. And he lived from 287 to 212 BC. And he famously has said, give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world. So we talk about leverage, and that's the idea behind this webinar. You leverage every meeting you have when you sell cleanly, when you get to like your customer, when they sense that you like what they're doing, when you're glad to be there and in their presence. But you know what leverage is. If you have the right fulcrum, a smaller weight can move a larger weight. So that's one illustration. But to define it, the ability to influence a system or an environment in a way that multiplies one's efforts without a corresponding increase in the consumption of resources. How do you double your billing without doubling the amount of work you have to do? Or even working a little bit less, working smarter instead of harder. All right. I'm going to share an idea that's so old it'll be new to many of you. But I want to give you the concept first. I hate flying, but I love getting upgraded. I was a United Airlines 100K frequent flyer for 15 straight years. I got upgraded 95% of the time. And I used to say, how do you stand all the travel? Because I was doing 130 live seminars a year. I said, I hate to fly, but I love getting upgraded. I got the best job in the world with the worst commute. And flying now is I have no status because I do webinars all the time. And it's terrible. But still, when you get upgraded, you get and recognized as a good customer, it's a good thing. So think about this in your own life, because nobody you call on wants to advertise, but every advertiser wants to be an important advertiser. And usually when there's a red letters, that's what goes in the blank. That's how I organize this session. Nobody wants to advertise, but everybody who advertises wants to be an important advertiser. And so, we talk about, I got a big order, or I got a small order. But what do you mean big order? And so it says in the notes there, the most beautiful word in the English language is a person's name. And you've heard that. That's Dale Carnegie, use people's name. And you know what the second most beautiful word is their business's name. And maybe sometimes everybody wants name awareness, name recognition. And when I was a young seminar guy, I used to sell these little rubber stamp kits. And that's an actual picture of a rubber stamp kit. I sold hundreds and hundreds of these at the back of the room because we were teaching people, when you present a schedule, instead of just saying, oh, you get 4 60s at $52.10, you get 3 AAA, AA time, you get 3 30s at this price. And it makes it look like a little schedule that costs a lot of money. So here's a big schedule. And we would take Octopus, I used to call an Octopus car wash, and we would put Octopus on every line. You're going to get one commercial every hour. And we used to make people do this, and we give them a little script. I'm required by my manager to show you the largest schedule you're allowed to run on my station because your ambition level may be higher than mine. You may have some big event, but you don't know that you can run bigger schedules and dominate the airways. I mean, if you run this schedule, it's going to make you the dominant advertiser. It's the largest schedule allowed to run. You'll be the dominant advertiser on the station for the week or the weeks that you run it. And it's going to drive your competition crazy. What do you think would happen if you ran a schedule that big? And I remember the guy I showed it to first time, he said, I'd go broke. And I said, well, how much do you think it costs? He says, that's got to cost, now this was in the 70s. That's got to cost $2,500. I said, no, it's only $1,800 because, you know, so, and then there's a 2-week waiting period before we allow you to run it. What do you think would happen if you ran the schedule? I go, no, that's not bad. I could afford that. Well, because I asked him how much he thought it cost. And I finally said, what would you have to sell to make this a good investment? He said, well, I wouldn't sell car washes. I would want to sell the Simonized wax, which I can sell for $39, and I make at least 80% profit on that. So I said, well, how many cars did you wax last week without a schedule like this? He said, well, I did about 20. But I said, do you think if we ran this many commercials, you could get 80? He says, yeah. I said, well, do you have enough wax to wax 80 cars? He said, no, but I'm going to order it. I said, well, you order the wax and I'll work on the copy. We'll get together next week and then we'll get this finalized. And we ran it. Of course, it worked. And he said, boy, I'm never going to run a schedule that big again. I just waxed too many. I was so tired of waxing. I had to bring in more people. So now all of a sudden, this is a smaller schedule, but he was running half that schedule. So look, it's like, if you look at this and you show people the big schedule, this becomes a little schedule, and that's 12 spots a day. So whether you do this in TV, radio, show people their name. Oh, by the way, your name's in each commercial 5 times because these are 60s or 30s. And so you want name awareness? I'm going to show you how to dominate the airwaves. And now you're making the commercial a little more tangible than just showing 360s at $62. So I hope that reminds some of you to do this. My assistant put this schedule together in 10 minutes using the tables, made a table with Microsoft Word or a PowerPoint, and she put that together in 10 minutes. So it's really easy to do. So there's that. Some of you just need 15% upgrade. You don't need to double your billing, okay? So I've got this idea that some stations use and then they quit using it. But it's the would you like fries with that close. And if you think about McDonald's, getting someone to say, would you like fries with that, has made them billions. So, hey, here's my schedule for the weekend. Hey, Jeff, I see we got your schedule going. We have a new thing here that you can double it overnight for 15%. It works on radio and TV. You have to double it different places way overnight because you've got prime time. I get that and access time, but you can give them some early morning, late night stuff to double their billing. And of course that lowers your cost per thousand. It lowers your cost per point. It gives you a lower average dollar per ad, and you double the frequency. And there are people who are watching and listening all day and all night. So the easy 15% upgrade, just double your schedule for 15% in times that you never sell. Make it 20 if you want to make more. Make it 10 if you don't think you can get 15. But that's an easy 15% because they've already bought the schedule for 15% more. Double it. So try that, institute it, try it for a quarter, see what happens. All right. This is something that ties into the rubber stamp idea, using the name, showing people the bigger schedule, smaller schedule. The ride down is easier than the ride up. And I used to wear a suit every day, and I used to buy a lot of suits. And I'd always go to the clothing store, and this salesperson would just size me up and say, what are you, 44 long? And I say, you got me. So we'll try this on for size. And they always tried on in those days, the $1,200 jacket or the suit instead of the $400 or $250 suit. They always start you in that nice, oh, look at the feel of the lining and look how well this is constructed. And by the way, did you know there's an extra pocket for your cell phone? And oh my gosh, what do you think? And then you sort of look in the cuff to see what the price is, and you go, oh, it's a little more than I wanted to pay. Well, let me show you something else. Here's a nice. And so the idea here is that if you start somebody out at $1,200 and they go to $800, it's only 30%. But if you start them in the $400 suit, you got to double, 100% upsell to get them to the $800 suit. So the ride down easier than the ride up. And it's true whether you show this big schedule or you have a package that's the domination package or whatever you want to call it. If people see what a big schedule looks like, then all of a sudden, a little schedule isn't as satisfying. And they'll go to more to the medium-sized schedule. So show them big schedules. Show them what they're allowed to buy. Start them high. Assume that they want to succeed more than you want them to succeed. So show them big schedules, right? This is very important stuff, the 3 growth strategies. There are only 3 ways to grow your business. And this comes from Jay Abraham, the guy on the picture. He's a marketing guru, advertising guru, business accelerator, if you will. But there's 3 things you can do. You can increase the client base and get more customers. You can sell more people. You can increase the amount of each transaction, or you can increase the frequency of the transactions. Someone who's running 1 week out of the month could run 2. Someone who's running 3 could run 4. So the thing you have to decide is which strategy is right for you. And if you're brand new, you're a rookie, you've got nobody on the air, or 3 or 4 clients, your job is to go out and increase the number of advertisers on the air, increase your client base, get more customers, just go out and get more customers. If you're a grizzled veteran of 20 or 30 years, then you might have 25 or 30 advertisers in your base, and going out and getting another $500 is not exciting to you. But what about increasing the amount of each transaction, getting the average dollar per advertiser up? That's new business too. And then you can increase the frequency of transactions by getting someone to run another promotion or do another week of advertising per month. So you need to think about that. So now, this is the part, I hope you've got something out of the first 35 minutes or so, 30 minutes. Because this is going to be about arithmetic. And some of you are going to roll your eyes, but it won't take long. And if you'll do this 1 hour of planning, if you'll actually do this for your account list, it'll save you a month of misery, maybe months of misery, and it will change the direction of your sales life, because it'll give you data that helps you change your own behavior because you decide how you're going to grow your business. So you have these forms in the back. You don't need these forms at all. These are guidelines. This was in an old course that I was teaching a few years ago, before all of the consolidation and everybody has 10 stations to sell, or 3 or 4 or 5. But the big idea is to figure out where 80% of your business comes from, and then to move the clients into the 7 components of your billing. And I'll walk you through a quick example, because this is no fun unless you're doing it with your own numbers. But hypothetically, we're just going to use a hypothetical salesperson. If you're in a big market, you might have to add a 0. If you're in a small market, you might have to subtract a 0. Don't worry about the numbers right now. So I always like to figure out where 80% of my business is coming from. And this person hypothetically billed $30,000 in December. And so 80% of her business is $24,000. And so if I were her sales manager, we would sit down in the conference room and we'd break it out together. Okay. Let's look at let's start listing your top biller, second, third, fourth, and let's see where 80% of your business comes from. So we get to 24,000 by just listing our top advertisers. So I got Leisure World, Muffler Man, True Green, Alamo Shoes. And so now I'm at 15,400. I add the rest of these other 4 and I get to 24,400, close enough. So I just look at that and I see that 8 clients make up 80% of my business. Now I did this with a salesperson of mine, and I said, Mac, 8 advertiser, it was 8 or 9, then 9, I think, for him. I said, how many clients do you have on your list? 80. Okay, well, I want you to get rid of, let's see, you can have 36. That's 4 times 9. So I want you to, because if you have 9 more just like this, you're going to double your bill. You're going to have 60% sales increase just by having 8 more or 9 more clients, just like this. In this case, 8 clients here. But I said, just call on 36 people. And the next time we did it, we cut him down to 27 people. And of course, every time we cut his number of people he was calling on, he had to go sell more to the people that he continued on his list, and his billing went up every year. So I would just say to people, look at your billing. What do you notice? What do you notice about that? And the hard part of this is to not judge it. You just have to notice what's happening, because there's no right or wrong numbers. Well, I see that eight advertisers make up 80% of my business. And how many accounts are on your list? Well, 63 in this case. Okay, and how many people were on the air in December? 19. Okay, so that tells us something. So now what do you notice? Boy, it took 11 more advertisers to get the last 20% of my billing. All right, so let's look at some of those averages. What else are you seeing? Oh my goodness, look at that. 15,000 from 4. 50% of my business comes from 4 advertisers. So I get my first 50%, average $4,100. My next 5 accounts, $2,380. I'm only getting $545 from the last 11 people. Well, that's good information. So now we need to think about what our strategy is for January and February. Well, I got to upgrade some of these last 11. I got to make sure some of these others renew, and I've got the data that tells me what to do. So I've always said the last 20% of your advertisers cause 80% of your headaches. They want more service, or just as much service as the $4,000 advertiser in this case. They want more copy changes. They want more attention and hand-holding, and they're slower to pay. So you really want to upgrade your list by getting bigger dollars per advertiser, showing people larger schedules, getting more people in your base. So it's easier to sell one advertiser a $5,000 schedule than it is to sell 10 advertisers $500 schedules. Am I right? Sometimes we go out and ask for too little. Sometimes the package that the manager puts together is too small. So just be aware of what your averages are, and then try to increase those things. So 7 components of your billing, and that's the second sheet. You have committed advertisers or base business. You have seasonal advertisers, flight business, the circus comes to town, the Harlem Globetrotters blow through town, whatever. And it's seasonal or flight billing that's going to go away, and you're going to have to replace it next month with something else. You got people that just started that you're trying to renew, and you got renewal business. They're not quite committed annuals yet. And then you've got brand new advertisers. They're trying your station for the first time. They're testing you. Anyway. All right, so you don't need a form to do this. Sometimes it's just better to take a legal pad and put the numbers on a legal pad and just sit there and do the math. You can use a calculator, but you just write it down, and don't just use a spreadsheet. Get physical with this, touch it. And so I'm going to just look at my base business, my seasonal business. I'm going to put names of the customers that belong in those spaces. Now, I'm not going to do that in this webinar. You'll get too bored. But let's just say that I've learned that 28% of my advertisers are committed or contracted for a period of time. It could be a quarterly schedule or annual schedule. So I got 28% who are base committed business. That's not good or bad. That just is. That's 28%. So now I'm going to set a goal to get it to 30, 35, 40. I'm not going to try to get it to 100. I'm going to try to incrementally bump it up. I go down to the bottom of that sheet. I've got 19 advertisers on the air. Maybe I want to set a goal to have 25, or maybe I want to just set a goal to have 22, but have everybody get another $100 and get my average billing up to $1,679, $1,770, $1,800. I want to work on my average billing goal. $1,579, not bad, but I could improve that. My total billing was $30,000, but now I see how it breaks out. And I do this for every section. All right, that's the end of the math problem. You don't need a form. You just need to have the data and then decide, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to work on selling more annuals? Am I going to work on getting more new business? Am I going to work on my average dollar per advertiser? And until you run those numbers, and it may not even take you an hour to do it, but until you run them, you're not going to be as successful as you could be if you just take that hour to think about your next month or next quarter. So maybe you decide, I'm just going to, so what are you going to do? Maybe you're going to decide, I'm just going to service that one person by phone. I'm only going to service that person once a month in person. I'm having a lot of long conversations and drives to get a little bit of money. I'm going to show 10 people that big schedule idea. I'm going to start asking for the 15% add-on to these people. I'm going to show 5 new, I'm going to show, so I'm just going to pitch annuals. It's going to tell you what to do once you've run the numbers. So I'm giving you some things that could happen, but I want you to find out what will happen for you. All right. Awareness is what leads to change. Until you're aware of how your billing is made up, you're not going to change the way you approach the marketplace. Until you really crunch the numbers, you won't know what to do. And I'll tell you, I won't tell you. I'm going to tell you the story. I was a high jumper in college, and I was 5th in the NCAA college division. That was before there was a university or Division 1, 2, 3. We had the college division. It was like Division 2 and 3. We'd have a meet, and I took a 5th in the NCAA meet, and I got an All-American award, and I had the women's world record for about 4 years, 6'8". But so I was good enough that they brought a coach in from outside the school to coach me just a high jump, because the coaches that we had couldn't coach me anymore because they didn't know what to do. So he said, you're leaning into the bar instead of really throwing your back. And this was before a Fosbury flop. And I said, no, I can feel I'm not leaning into the bar. And he filmed me. And of course, it took 2 weeks to get the film back. But once he ran the film, I could see how I was leaning into the bar. And I was able, with awareness, to change that thing. And so I was able to, until I became aware of what I was doing and believed it, I wasn't able to change. So awareness does lead to change. And this is an awareness exercise about the 7 components of your billing and the 80-20 rule, the 80% of your billing, where it comes from, how it's made up. All right. Mistakes in goals mean mistakes in activities. And so if you just say, I'm going to go get more new business, without saying, I'd like to get 3 new advertisers at $1,600 per month or more, and start working your goals that way, you'll never succeed to the extent that you could. So specific goals based on specific data. All right. One more example, and this is an example that is right out of my book, The Accidental Sales Manager, but it's how do you double your billing? And the hard way and the easy way. And the hard way is on top, because look, I got 20 customers in January, and I go out and sell more new business, but I don't do anything with my average dollar per advertiser. I have 24 clients in February, and then I get 28 in March, April, May, and wow, look at that. In July, I've got 40 advertisers on the air. They're all spending $1,000, and I've doubled my billing. I'm exhausted. I feel like a plate spinner, but I did it. So another way to do it is, look at this. I go from 20 to 26, but I work on also the average dollar per advertiser. And in February, I get it to 1,100, 1,200, 1,300. You may not do this exactly this way, but notice what happens if you can just incrementally do the average dollar, focus on that too, and not just focus on running out and getting more people on the air. You doubled your billing with 6 more advertisers, and your life has gotten easier. So Jim Williams taught me this. And Jim Williams was a curmudgeonly, chain-smoking, Jack Daniels drinking, somewhat obnoxious radio sales trainer when I was a young rep. And he was extreme, and some of you met him, and I mean, once you went through his system, you were tougher than you were when you went in there. He was good. But what he said to me when I was a very young salesperson was, whatever you make in a month seems like a lot of money, but it's not. It's not, because it's personal dollars versus business dollars. So the thing is, if you make $60,000 a year, you might think $5,000 is a lot of money because that's what you live on. But it's not to a business. I've walked out of my office with $5,000 worth of plane tickets in my pocket. And, I didn't even think about it. It was business dollars, and some of it was going to be reimbursed by the client. Or, you buy a piece of equipment for the office, or you buy 3 new computers because they all died at the same time, and it's nothing. So business dollars and personal dollars are 2 different things. Business dollars and personal dollars are different. So let's just quickly look at this picture. This is the waiting room at an auto dealer service department. These people are getting their cars serviced. There's a coffee pot over there against the wall. And I was told by the advertising agency that handles the coffee company that in Madison, Wisconsin, there's a car group, Zimbrick Auto Group, and they have multiple dealerships. But their coffee budget is $35,000 a month. $35,000 a month for coffee, because all these people are coming in drinking coffee. Their employees are drinking coffee that they're giving away for free. And if you walk in there with a $2,000 schedule or a package or idea, you don't even get their heart to beat. They spend $35,000 a month on coffee. So you need to be in there showing them, here's how you can dominate. Here's how you can make, get more name awareness. Here's how you can sell more cars. Here's how what would you have to sell in order to justify a schedule this big? Okay. So business dollars and personal dollars are 2 different things. Sarah said, I found a cat on the internet. And I said, how much is it? She said, it's only $2,400 and they want cash. And I said, you're not gonna, well, she did, and we did, and we love him, it's Titan. So that's personal dollars. And when I had $2,400 in cash and we were meeting the breeder in a Dairy Queen parking lot near St. Louis on a Sunday morning with cash, I said, I better love this cat because this is a lot of money, but I did. So that's the good news. Titan, he's a Bengal. And we had to meet at the Dairy Queen parking lot because his father was, there was an Asian leopard that they breed with the Abyssinians at this breeder. So there we go, designer cats. All right. If you have more than 50 businesses that you're calling on, you don't have an account list, you have a hunting license. And I read that in a Harvard Business Review article years ago. But if you think about that, you can't service and come up with ideas and help and care about everybody in the marketplace. You really need to narrow your focus and spend more time with any given customer. So obviously, you can see 200 people once, you can see 100 advertisers twice, you can see 67 advertisers 3 times, 50 advertisers 4 times, 25 advertisers 8 times. It's the same amount of work. But if it takes 5 or 6 meetings to make a sale and to get, to do the consulting, you can't deal with all these people and be successful and really sell them for the long term. If you're dealing with all the, hundreds and hundreds, you are the plate spinner, and something's always going to fall and you're going to be stressed instead of having a reliable base. You may need a few more than 50, you may need a few less, but if you get way up there, you're not going to be as focused and successful, I promise. So we're getting toward the end. The thing I want to really talk about here is you can measure the quality of your meetings and not just the number of meetings or calls. And those of you who've followed me for years, I don't like the word sales call. I like the term scheduled sales conversation, but you can call them calls if you want to, meetings, scheduled sales conversations. And this is in your notes. This is the chart. If I'm famous for anything, it's It's the chart, and this is sort of the GPS. Where am I with this prospect? What kind of meeting did I just have? What kind of selling am I doing? And I want to give you 60 seconds just to look at this and read it. What does level 1 look like when you're, whether your objective, your level of trust, your approach? What is level 2? What is level 3? And I'm going to be quiet for a full 60 seconds, and then I'm going to come back. See if you can see yourself at different levels with different people. Okay, well, you'll have that in your notes long after this webinar is over, but one of the things you might want to look at is using this to plan a meeting that you're having, an upcoming meeting. I want to have some level 2 and 3 parts to that meeting. I want to have some level 3 moments. I want to bring them some ideas. I want to be a resource. You can use it to evaluate how the meeting went. You can use it to grade relationships and then upgrade them, because really that's what we're trying to do. We want to, we want this. How does this look? Hold on. We really want to spend some time being that true source of industry information, being a resource. We want to avoid the level 1 package of the week. Here's the media kit. Anything coming down for me this week? Your account's just been assigned to me. Anything I can do for you? You want to be more give him more suggestions than just be in there to see what's happening. So if you can get to level 2 in most of your meetings, you're going to be much more successful. So my big idea here is, the quality of every meeting and every relationship you have can be graded and is measurable. And you're going to sell more by having 5 level 2 meetings than you will by having 10 level 1 meetings. So when we say you can double your billing with half the effort, I'm really not saying have fewer meetings, but I am saying if I were to come to town and start a job in selling, and I knew how to have more level 2 and 3 conversations with people, I would outsell the people that were just scurrying around town having level 1 meetings. It's just a fact. All right, so grade your relationships and then upgrade your relationships. People buy the way you sell before they buy what you sell. Garfield talked about that when he changed the way he thought, when he changed the way he sold, when he was there for them, clean selling, whatever you want to call it, when he was concerned about their results, not his. He started selling more, and he just changed from a level 1 peddler to a level 2 problem solver. And he did it and doubled his business. Last story. I can hear a sigh of relief. This went pretty fast, though. It's 52 minutes in. We're going to finish on time. I'm going to hang out if you want to raise your hand and ask questions or just text me questions. I'm going to hang out here. But I want to tell you this last story. One of the things that I love doing, and I did 400 plus advertiser meetings where I would go to a market and I would speak to the advertisers. And this happened to be a hotel in Winnipeg, but I was in Barrie, Ontario. And one of the things we did at the end of the session is we would have a sales rep at each table, and we would have advertisers for the radio or TV stations at the round tables. And I'd say, this would be a great opportunity for you as advertisers to talk to the salespeople in this room about what kind of service you want from? How could they provide you better service? What could they do differently to build the relationship with you? And then they would sit at the table, and the rep had to write down the everything that they said, and then we would put the ideas up on a flip chart. And it was always the same in every market. I wish people would listen more. I wish people would learn about my business. Oh gosh, if people would just make appointments, if people wouldn't just drop by with a package, but they'd really help me come up with an idea, that would be great. And one guy, Barry Ontario, he said, I just wish people would treat me like I'll be in business next month. Help me plan out a whole strategy. Help me organize my advertising so that I can be more successful. So think about that, and think about how powerful you could be and how that would be if you approach clients differently with that kind of attitude and treated them like they'll be in business next month, not just like you have to make your number for this month, because you got to sell more, but so do they, and you can help them. All right. Education without action is entertainment. I hope you like this seminar, but I did it for your improvement, not for your enjoyment. To know and not to do is not to know. So if you've got some ideas that you can implement and you don't do it, then you don't know. I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to sit down with that yellow pad and figure this out. That would take too long. And a training program, webinar, seminar, audio, online, that doesn't change your behavior in some way is as useless as a parachute that opens on the first bounce. So let me do this, give you survey number 2. Stand by, here it comes. Do you have something specific to do as a result of attending this session? So I've got at least one idea. I got 2 ideas, 2 or 3. I'm not sure. We're going to have another meeting or no, I didn't get any good ideas. All right. So there's what we have. 19%, yes, they have an idea. 81, at least 2 or 3. Not 1% is not sure, but they will go through the planning or the handout and then come up with something. So you do have a place to put your ideas and the clients that you could use them on. So consider doing that. This is important, is that what's the first physical action step going to be once this webinar has ended, and when are you going to take it? So education without action is entertainment. What's the physical action step? You don't want to think about it. You want to do something, whether it's fill out the 80-20 or fill out the 7 components of your billing or start asking for the 15% increase or whatever the idea you're going to do. When are you going to do it and who are you going to do it with? And I'll take questions and comments coming up. So if you have a question or comment you'd like to get in, I'm done. I'm finished with this session. I would urge you to take a look at this book. You've heard the foreword. That was Garfield Ogilvy's story of attending that long ago seminar. And you've gotten some ideas from this webinar that you're excited about putting into action. So after this is over, go to Amazon, look at the book, read chapter 1. You can read that for free within the, look inside section. And you're going to read the story about the day I got fired from my second sales job. I got fired and how I got the job back. And then if you want to, read the 18 reviews and then see what you think. And please buy the book if you think it'll help you. So $6.97 for a few more days on paperback, and Kindle is $4.97. So let's go to this. I'm gonna hang out for questions, and I want to thank all of you for being on this webinar. Appreciate it. It's a nice crowd.